Hello and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's been a little while and slight change of tack. Today we are going to be taking a helicopter to a offshore wind farm. So we're here at Wick Airport in Scotland. This is the H135 helicopter from Hype Performance Group. And the plan today is to go for a quick visit to Beatrice wind farm. Now let's have a look on the map to see what's what. So the Beatrice wind farm, which is modelled in MSFS, is here. That's what, about maybe 10 miles south-southeast of Wick. And there's a helicopter company, I think they're a German company, called, let me just bring this up, called Wiking, I guess Viking you might say in German, Wiking Helicopters. And they run H145s. Obviously I've only got the H135 here. You can get the H145 as a paid helicopter, but I haven't got that yet. And one of the locations that Wiking operate from is Wick, and they actually run the sort of service flights. I'm not sure what they do. They seem to fly out and come back. I mean, they're not going to be winching anyone, so I guess they just do inspections of the wind turbines. And if we look at an example flight here, so this is a typical sort of flight to the wind farm from Flight Radar. So you can see starting here near the old World War II hangars, which is roughly where we are. We're actually on a pad here. In this case it was runway 31 for takeoff and landing. They go out to the wind farm, have a kind of inspect, and then come back again. Now if we go back to the simulator. Now it's not quite, the draw distance isn't quite right in MSFS, or maybe it's just by settings, because in real life if you were to look out over the bay here, you would see the wind turbines quite happily. Can't see them yet. We actually have to get a bit nearer to them in the simulator before they appear. So anyway, here we are on the ground. Those are the two hangars. They're actually both meant to be the same, but for some reason they're drawn slightly differently in the sim. So we'll be taxiing out along here, and I think the wind today favours runway 13, so we'll probably be taking off in this direction and then heading straight out to sea. Now again, let's just go back, because we need to do a little bit of navigation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the NDB here and get the bearing from the NDB. So if we use using this little nav map, if we say measure distance from the NDB and we'll take it to the wind farm, you can see we get a heading of about 155 degrees magnetic. So if we tune in the NDB, keep the NDB pointer straight behind us when we're on a heading of 155, we should, I mean, we're not going to miss it, but yeah, that'll take us in the right direction. Then we'll fly, and it's okay, it's apparently 12 miles. So without further ado, let's how have I ended up here? Let's try and get back in the cockpit. Here we are. Now I've got a Stream Deck with some of the buttons, many of these overhead panel buttons set up in the Stream Deck, so rather than actually clicking them, I'll be using the Stream Deck. So this is cold and dark. I've got all I have is a normal throttle quadrant, so I have just one of the throttle 1 is mapped to the collective, joystick for slide click, and obviously rudder pedals for the torque pedals. Let's get the battery on, and let's get anti-collision light turned on. Now, I'm not turning avionics on yet. I actually like to wait till I've got one of the engines going and we've got some one of the generators in operation. Now the generator switches seem to default to on, so I'm just going to leave them. I'm going to start one of the engines. Before I do that, let's start engine 2 and let's put the engine 2 primer pump on, and you can now start engine 2. Now again, I've got sort of buttons for that, but you'd use this, I think. So engine 2 is now spooling up. Once we get the generator light on, then I'm going to start to turn on the avionics. There we go, we've got generator light on now, so I'm going to turn on the inverter and the avionics. Now then, so we've also got twin GTN 750s here. I don't need both of them, so I'm going to turn one of them off. I'm just going to put this one on map. I'm not really going to be using them. This panel over here I'm going to put on digital map. Again, probably won't actually use it very much. Let's just zoom the map out one bit. And engine 2 is now idle, so let's go for the primer pump for engine 1, and we'll do engine 1 start. While we're waiting for that, let's turn these autopilot switches on. You'll see that there are warnings here and they'll go off. The displays are a bit bright, so I like to just kind of turn that down a bit. Both generators are now operating. A nice rotor animation in the building in the shadow there. Okay, both engines now are idle. So I'm going to turn on the forward and aft fuel pumps, turn off the primer pumps. Yeah, that'll do for now. Ooh, I suppose before we started the engines, we should have done the engine fire test switches. Let's just check that now. Yeah, 2 fire, and check all the test lamps. Yeah, and they're all out, so that's fine. Okay, so in theory we're ready to take off. Just need to do a brief pause here, I'll be back with you in 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, back with you now. Right, so we've got the engines running. The only other thing we really need, we need to set the altimeter, so let's just shift B that. We need to get the ADF. We need an ADF bearing, tune the ADF. So on here you've got bearing 1 and bearing 2. So let's change bearing 1 until it says ADF. And it's currently saying no data. Now I must confess I don't know how you tune the ADF on here. I don't think there's a facility to do it in the basic version of the GTN 750. I've got an external radio tuning solution, so I'm just going to use that. And the Wick NDB is 344. So let's set 344. Hopefully that will then come alive. Yep, there we go. ADF, and it's pointing in roughly the right direction, which is great. So that's all we're really going to need for nav. Just use that to navigate out, and then we can use it to head back to the airport as well. Now on the flight radar data, the flight goes to about 1,000 feet during the cruise to the wind farm, so we'll try and replicate that as well. Okay, so first things first, let's figure out which runway we're going to use. Now, the wind has actually shifted. It's now 240, so it doesn't really favour either runway, so we may as well use runway 13, because that'll just give us a quicker departure. So it's basically just going to be a side wind. Let's get our heading bug set for runway 13. Okay, sun seems to have gone in as well. Alright. So we need to, we're going to lift off, and then I guess we'll turn left, as there's no building on that side. So let's get the engines into run mode. And then essentially we're looking for, we need to turn everything else on. Let's turn our strobe lights on, position lights on. Pitot yet. I'm not sure we're going to need it, but put it on. Transponder, stay on standby for now. Switch it to alpha video. Okay, we're ready to go. So a little bit of left anti-torpedo. Start to raise collective. Not very good at helicopters, as you will no doubt see. Let's see if we can manage to auto taxi our way to the runway. We have a fuel truck to avoid here, so let's just see if we can do that. Okay, it seems to be clear. Let's go. Coming up now near the runway, so let's go out. Let's don't try and press buttons whilst trying to keep the taxi straight. I think I'll stick Pitot heat on anyway, just in case. That's all the warnings off now. I suppose we should stop here and get clearance. Not sure whether we can bring it to complete hover here without going wrong, but we'll see. Stop here and let's pretend we're radioing for some clearance. I suppose I should have put the alt transponder on here. Okay, let's assume we're cleared to take off. We're going to turn right onto runway 13. We're going to go. Clear left and right. Yep. Since we'll put some more power in now, and we'll get some forward speed and get some translational lift. Now the NDB is almost straight ahead of us, follow runway heading. When we reach it, which we'll be able to tell by the needle flipping backwards. just near those houses in front of us on the road, on the little sort of hut. There we go, and swinging round. We'll then look to turn to a heading of 155 degrees. And try and keep the NDB pointer directly behind us on that heading. Not on that heading, just let's try and get back to it. It's not hypercritical because the wind farm's fairly big, so you can't really miss it. Let's go up, try and get up to about 1,000 feet. Now then, we're off bearing, aren't we? Because let's get back to 155. I may use autopilot here for a bit actually, just because it's just going to make things easier. Let's get to 1,000 feet. Engage the autopilot. You can bump trim level flight. Not bad. Need to pull the tail. So with the NDB, you push the head, pull the tail. We are kind of pulling the tail, or are we pushing? No, we're pulling. I can never work this out. I think we're probably close enough. Should we turn right a bit more? Seem to be helping. Let's go back to 5. Oh, there we go. Wind turbines. Okay. Just see them ahead of us now. I'm going to disconnect the autopilot and I'm going to start to come down. So what we'll do is we'll just make one sort of pass through between two rows of turbines, and we'll maybe try and hover around one of the turbines just to have a look at it as if we were inspecting it, and then we'll head back. So let's initially get down, let's get down to about 400 feet here. I don't want to descend too quickly. And you can see the turbines now, especially off to our right, so we're kind of at the left hand edge really. So let's just head right a little bit so we're more in the middle of the central things. We keep coming down and we want to start slowing up now as well. Just bring the power back. Let's try and get to about 60 knots. And about 400 feet, let's say 300 maybe. The turbines are actually quite nicely animated. I say I'm not really sure what they do with the helicopter here. I guess it's just visual inspection. I've noticed this is running the beta version of the sim, and I have noticed some sort of quite abrupt weather. I guess it's weather changes. I don't know whether it's scenery loading changes or weather changes. Other than that, it works great. But it almost reminds me of the old X-Plane sudden weather changes. So here we go now. You start to see the turbines closer. So what we'll do is we'll fly down this row. and then we'll make a turn around and sort of try and sort of hover inspect one of them. One of the ones on our left, let's say. Let's go about halfway down this road and then we'll try and turn in between. I'm not sure what the sort of restrictions are on operating a helicopter between wind turbines. Just got to be pretty careful. So this is the Beatrice wind farm. It's nearly 600 megawatts total capacity. It's pretty decent field. Now then, let's aim for that turbine at around about our 10-11 o'clock position, and we're going too slow. So let's just get the nose down and a bit more power. Bit, but not too quickly. So yeah, let's aim for let's aim for orbiting this turbine on the left here, so we can get a close look at it. Now we're going a bit quickly, so let's just slow up. Very good at this bit at all, so I don't want to fly into the thing. A little bit high, but sort of in a hover now. Got to keep some forward momentum, so let's assume we've got a co-pilot with binoculars or whatever they need to do their inspection stuff. That one looks like it's working absolutely fine. You can see over there the Caithness coast with the hills of Scarborough Ridge and Morven. Right, pretty much head back to the airport now, and the navigation back is dead easy. All we've got to do is head straight for the NDV needle. So yeah, there we go. Let's get some power back on. Some forward speed. I say this is meant to be flown with a H135. As I've just started sort of experimenting with helicopters, I haven't gone as far as paying for anything yet. So this is the H135, which is the free version you can get on flightsim.to. So let's take it back up to about 1,000 feet, and we'll go for a straight in approach on runway 13. Sorry, runway 31. As I think it's still pretty much a crosswind, so that should be fine. I'm not very good at my approaches to landing. I tend to sort of slow up too much so that by the time I reach the runway threshold I'm almost stopped. It's probably not going to be any better today, we'll see. try and land and then park back where we set off from. And I can just about see the runway. If I use my mouse here, see it's there. It's dead ahead. You can see the bay, Wick Bay and Harbour on the slightly, sort of pretty much dead ahead as well. And then we don't want to get any higher than this, so let's just keep it here. As I say, pretty much using the NDB needle just to head straight for that. Set a heading to 3-1 for runway heading. Let's just do that to be clear. So there we go, now have runway heading. And I think you can see the runway now. Of course what we don't have with just the NDB is any distance from the runway, so we're just going to have to do it visually. We are going pretty fast now, we're quite high, so I think it's time to bring some power back, begin a sort of gradual descent, and slow down. This is where I find that lining up, I mean we have got a crosswind, right, so you'd expect, we've got a lot of right and torpedo in at the moment. I'm never very sure whether this helicopter is meant to be trimmed somehow or whether that's just what you'd expect. If I take that pedal out now, you'll see that we're off completely in the wrong direction. I guess it's because we are of course crabbing into the wind. A bit low on the happy lights, so let's just keep this altitude and let the speed come back. Yeah, so we won't descend anymore until we get I think we've got 4 reds from what I can see. And we go far too far over to the right. Still looks like 4 reds. Let's get the speed down to about 70. There we go, 1 white light appearing. A lot of white pedaling. 2 whites now. We can start to descend. So let's bring some power off. Let's try and get lined up a bit better with the runway because we're nowhere near well lined up at the moment. A bit fast as well. So let's just. I miss having trim here. I know you can use autopilot trim, but that kind of means turning the autopilot. I don't know if there's any other way to trim it. Again, there's a lot of white pedal in here and nothing left. There's a 13 knot crosswind, I suppose that's reasonable. Let's just bring some power off now. Slow things up a bit now. While we're at such a crazy angle to try and get lined up. Oops, too much pedal movement. Practice here. So I don't want to lose all my forward speed here. Oops. That was. Now then, let's maintain that. Let's try and maintain the forward speed this time. 20 sounds good. Think about it, compared to normal aircraft landing speed, this is much slower. Probably I'm going too slow, in fact. Yeah. Let's just put some more power in. Yeah, obviously, I think I've over-slowed down here, but let's try and onto the taxiway. A bit higher, maybe. Need to be kind of slowing it down now. Turn off the lights are already off. I'll turn off the strobe. I'm not touching my transponder at the moment because prematurely touch down. Okay, let's now hopefully. Whoa. Steady. Watch the fuel truck. Off a huge rate of knots here, and we're far too high. This is not going to end well. So we're aiming to park at the end of that sort of larger building on the right, opposite a big sort of green-grey colour thing. I guess it's to do with the wind. Yeah, of course. Headwind now, so we need less power, I guess, to get the same lift. Makes sense. So that's what I'm not used to compensating for. So now to turn right. I think I'm going to try and park it facing away from the building. This is the bit I'm not very good at. It's kind of trying to turn on the spot without losing my position. I think we have already touched down. Let's just see if we can get it turned round without hitting the building or we shouldn't be. Let's see if we've drifted. Just bring it forward a touch. So let's say that'll do. Okay, we're back. Now then, engine shut down. So engines first of all come back to idle. Turn off our position light now. Engines are both back at idle. So we can shut down engine 1. Engine 2. Turn the avionics off. Go away. Yeah, so now we're just waiting for the rotors to shut down. So there we go, a little bit ropey there on the taxiing, but we kind of successfully made it to the Beatrice wind farm and had a quick inspection, one of the turbines. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully see you again soon, not in a helicopter. Bye for now.